Hello, hello, welcome to the HVAC Diaries. This episode of the HVAC Diaries is brought to you by New Calgon. Welcome to another crazy summertime episode of the HVAC Diaries. It feels like as we progress further and further into summertime, it just gets crazier and crazier. And this week honestly just felt kind of defeating in some cases. And maybe it's because of the kind of person that I am, not the technician that I am, but just the person that I am. I always think that everything is my fault. Anytime anything goes wrong, we get a call like, this is happening. I'm like, oh no, what did I do to cause that? So I guess it's like a really narcissistic way of being, because not everything is about me. But every time I'm like, oh no, what have I done? Shit. Our week started off with some really warm rain. On Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we had just disgusting humidity in the air, and it kind of caused a bunch of problems. But anyway, we'll get into that. So, what HVAC adventures do I have for you this week that I want to tell you all about? Let's see. Some leftovers from last week. So, at the beginning of the week on Monday, we met with the metal fabricator for the catering truck from last week's vlog. We met with him on the Monday morning, kind of went over things with him, made some requests from him. And actually, to be fair, after we'd all slept on this problem for the weekend, on Monday morning, Trevor's like, well, if we just remove all of the rivets on the back plate, we can remove that plate and then we'll have access from that side as well.
Of course.
The office lunch one is the worst.
So Trevor's got the back plate off now. And now we have a bit more wiggle room with what we can access. But as you can see, with the roof still there, it's really difficult to really do anything up there. But yay, finally! We got her out. Great success.
But we still need to have the roof removed.
And then cut out the ceiling.
So it was good that we met with the metal fab guy, because we kind of left him to do that while we went off and did another job. And then we returned later on in that day after he'd cut out the roof. And then Trevor actually spent some time angle grinding out the side of the thing as well. So now we had access from the side and from the roof, and we could get our condensing unit installed properly.
We also decided to grab some of these flexible no kink pipes just to help us a little bit more.
All right, let's see what this guy did for us here. All right, the roof's all gone. Hopefully that's enough space for us to do our thing.
This was my first time seeing these flexible pipes being used, and because they come in 36-inch lengths, that's kind of what you're stuck with. So we ended up not using the larger pipe because we just didn't have enough space for it.
But I don't know if I'm going to be able to tighten this.
Right.
Well, maybe I can. I don't know.
We did end up using the smaller pipe, so that was kind of cool. And then Dad ended up brazing in the other pipe.
Much thinking involved in that.
While the system was on vacuum, we got the door thing back on, all those bolts. And then I got the electrical stuff done too. Here is the walk-in cooler on this truck. It's pretty sweet. Got a keep right evaporator. Things seem to be running quite well down here. That little flexible hose or flexible refrigerant pipe. It's pretty nifty.
Well, after all that fighting, we got the new unit in. We got the bracket with the door back in place. And this unit's gonna run a lot cooler now that it doesn't have a roof or a side. Also left over from last week was that plastics recycling factory with the leak in that chiller that was on those tank tracks. Actually kind of disappointing, because as we were finishing up with the metal fab guy, we called the plastics factory guy and we were like, okay, we're on our way to come and take care of that leak for you. And he was like, actually we had someone in over the weekend and they found and repaired the leak, so don't worry about coming. What the hell? I was so disappointed and personally offended by that, because I was a little bit personally invested in that whole thing. So now I will never know where that leak was and how we missed it on that Friday. Anyway. Sometimes that is just the nature of our industry, is that if you can't get to somebody on in a certain amount of time, they just go to the next person because, well, their production is down. So they need to be up and running as quickly as they can be. It's just so unfortunate, because if he had told us that it was urgent, we would have been there on Friday as well. No, we were there on the Friday. Anyway, they told us that they would be okay for the weekend, that we could come on the Monday and take care of it. But I guess they changed their minds. On Tuesday, we did the big story of the week, which I'm probably not going to go into too much detail here. I'll do that in a separate video. But we finally replaced the condensing unit on the standalone walk-in freezer at the Tim Hortons at the gas station. So it's just this little standalone room. It's a walk-in freezer where they keep all of their frozen stuff, obviously. So yeah. Now, this project has been years in the making. That old condensing unit has been in such poor shape for quite a long time. And every summer we're like, it might not make it through the summertime. And every summer they're like, yes, I know, we'll replace it next year. And then the whole year goes through again. And then, oh, no, we're going to replace it next year. Anyway, finally was done on Tuesday in the pouring hot rain. Oh. And it was really stressful for a number of reasons. Well, crane day is always exciting and always stressful. It's always so stressful to organize the crane on paper and in talking. And then when it finally shows up, you just hope and pray that it's going to be big enough. It's going to fit in the space that you have for the crane. And in this case, we were working at a gas station, which has a whole different set of rules and regulations about working with rigging up a crane on a gas station. Anyway, luckily for us, it was just sort of on the side of the gas station and not actually where the pumps are and everything. So we were just on the side of the building, which is perfect. And we just needed a very small crane that didn't require a lot of setup time. I don't think it's going to need to extend. It's just okay. It's just a Unfortunately, it's in the only gas station in downtown Vancouver, so it's just madness there. There's just cars and just people everywhere. And it's so interesting, the types of cars that you see there, because it's the only gas station in downtown. So you see the shittiest of cars, and then a Ferrari will drive through. And you're like, oh, okay. And it also attracts the most interesting types of people, lots and lots of homeless people, unfortunately. Anyway, so we got this new condensing unit in place. Everything is all hooked up. I've done the electrical and the controls and the defrost timer, and Dad's done the refrigerant pipes, and it's all done and ready to commission.
Will the pipe not go in there? No, because that doesn't even, it takes that out of valve.
Yeah, it was.
And we fire the thing up and it's running for a little while, and the thing is just not behaving properly. Our refrigerant pressures are a little bit off. Something is not quite right. And we return the next day to install a fan speed controller. On the old unit, I'm pretty sure the old unit also had a fan speed controller and not a fan cycling switch. And the difference is the fan cycling switch is when the fans turn on and then off, and then on and then off as they're needed. Whereas a fan speed controller, they modulate, they go like, they ramp up and ramp down as they need. So it's not on off. It's like, here's a little bit, and here's a lot, and here's a little bit. And so that's how a fan modulating speed thing works anyway. So we get this fan speed controller installed, and our pressures seem to behave a little bit better this time. All right, so Dad just went to grab a coffee, so I'm gonna try to explain what we just done here. So yesterday, our pressures just weren't coming up. We just had really low suction pressure yesterday, and when we arrived, today was like 8 or 9 psi when we arrived. So we've installed a fan speed controller, which is gonna make these condenser fans run as slow or as fast as needed. And by doing that, we're basically bypassing the low ambient control, which is that valve there, which I think is what was giving us trouble yesterday. It seemed like all of our pressure was just kind of hanging back behind that valve, if that makes sense. Now it's free flowing because we've got this fan speed controller. Now our pressures are much higher, and just by the touchy-feely test, when we arrived, our liquid line here was not even lukewarm, and now it's nice and hot. So we are definitely working a lot better here. But it's still not working as it should. Our suction pressure is really low. Our discharge temperature is sky high, like 240 degrees Fahrenheit, which is outrageous. Okay, well, we've been here a while still with our fan speed controller, and we're still having some issues. We're still having very low suction, and our discharge temperature right there is over 212 degrees. I think right now it's like 236 or something. So we're figuring out what problem we have here. We're trying really hard to figure this out. And so, man, we were shaking our heads trying to figure out, like, do we have an overcharge here? Did we somehow get non-condensables in the system, even though we vacuumed it properly? Man, we're just scratching our heads. And so my dad, eventually, he's like, I hate to say it, but I think the TXV is faulty. And you guys know how I feel about TXVs. I always question him, like, are you sure? Are you sure? It's so funny, this tiny little apprentice with zero experience. I have some, but I have no experience compared to my dad. And I'm like, are you sure? See, look at this frost pattern. It's all along the top, but none along the bottom. So we're just trying to see if we can identify this TXV, because there's nothing on it, no labels or anything. So my dad and Trevor went back the following day with a new TXV, and unfortunately I had to do a stupid office day that day. I really had to get some like end of month stuff, bookkeeping stuff done, and so I was stuck in the office, so I didn't get to see the TXV replacement or how things behaved afterwards. But Trevor called me and he reported in, because I was like waiting at the phone, like, how did it go? How did the TXV replacement go? So he called me and he was like, the replacement is done and everything is working 1,000 times better. Our pressures are all proper now, and we are headed on our way to minus 18 degrees Celsius. So another bad TXV, you guys. This week we headed to the Vancouver Film Studios, where we checked out a catering truck with a little like reach-in cooler that wasn't getting cold enough.
plug in. The only way to get it like offline is
the trailer or the truck is so tiny, but it's so cute inside and everything looks and smells just so good, so delicious. Anyway, so they've got a Habco reach-in cooler, and we just found the evaporator totally frozen over. So we went through our various things. The fan motor was running okay, our pressures were okay, and so it seemed to come down to the controller.
sure. Do you want granola with your yogurt parfait? Okay, good.
Yeah.
I just have to call around. So big free now.
But the controller that they have on this specific cooler is pre-programmed with all of the parameters like pre-programmed into those pre-programmed things. And what I mean by that is you basically get setting 1, 2, 3, or 4. And all of these various parameters are pre-programmed into those settings 1, 2, 3, or 4. And you can't go into those individual parameters and change them. For example, 2 of them are set up in Celsius and 2 of them are set up in Fahrenheit. But all of the other parameters change with them as well, like their minimum and maximum temperatures, their defrost intervals and timings, just a whole bunch of parameters. And so the lady's like, oh, to change it from Celsius to Fahrenheit, you just go to setting number 1, without realizing that all of the parameters, all of the settings in setting number 1 also change when you change that. Anyway, so we were trying to figure this out for her. We eventually called the tech support of Habco, which happens to be in Canada, out in Ontario. And immediately he was like, so I start rattling off. I'm like, oh, we've got this cooler. It's doing this and this and this. And he's like, whoa. Please just give me your serial number. So I give him the serial number. He's like, are you so-and-so? I'm like, no, so-and-so is actually the customer. I'm the contractor working on the fridge. This is what we've done. And he's like, you should never even be able to get into the programming of that controller. I'm like, okay, well, this is my job. This is what I do. So he's like, you need a new controller. So anyway, so it came down to a new controller. And so we tell our customer this, and she's like, I need it by Friday. We're like, dude, it's Wednesday right now. She's like, I don't care how you do it. She's like, magic, get it here. I want this thing ready for the long weekend. She's like, I need to be working over the long weekend. Get it to be on Friday. And that is just so stressful because shipping is out of my hands. Anyway, so the girl that was helping me at Habco, I'm like, dude, make it happen. Like, however much it costs, just get it to me on Friday. And so I checked the UPS tracking number that she gave me, and on Thursday afternoon at 4 p.m. my time, she's in Ontario, remember, 3 hours ahead, 4 p.m. my time, UPS still hadn't had their hands on the package. I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, I can't tell this lady, oh, you don't have a fridge for the weekend. However, you guys, by some miracle, UPS delivered it at like 10:30 a.m. on Friday morning. So we got her done. We got her changed. But I've got like 0 videos of us changing the controller. I mean, it's not very exciting. It's just some wires being pulled out and pulled in. But we did that on Friday afternoon. And by then, everyone was at their wits' end. We were just so frustrated and defeated by the week that there was no messing around, no time for videos.
Okay, one video.
And then I can take the SkyTrain, so I love that. And then
One of the things that really took the wind out of my sails this week, other than the whole Tim Hortons condensing unit debacle with the fan speed controller and the TXV situation, the unit that we replaced at the liquor store a couple weeks ago, remember that day? Remember that day? So they called us one evening saying that the new unit we had installed is leaking water everywhere. They're like, please come. It's an emergency. Please come. Remember that rain we had at the beginning of the week? It really messed us up. Anyway, so we arrived there and there's just buckets everywhere. And immediately I'm like, crap, oh my gosh, what have we done? What have we done? But to be fair, you guys, we test everything. So we tested that condensate P-trap. We tested that it ran away. We tested that drain properly before we left because we don't want to get a call back saying it's leaking. But here we are. So anyway, we spend a few hours there just testing and making sure and checking things. And it turns out our unit is draining perfectly fine. But the drain line going through the wall and perhaps down into the sink in the kitchen in the pub beside them, we're not quite sure. We try to trace it.
Drain back there and a drain there, and then that drains into that drain. So the main point is here.
Yeah.
But I just don't know if that copper pipe loops around and comes through the backside,
corner and
or if that drain up there is draining into something else.
it seems like that whole line is blocked because every time we disconnect the P-trap and we drain it into a bucket, we drain the unit and the line into a bucket, put it all together, fire it up and test it, the unit drains right through and it keeps draining until it like backs up and fills up and then it doesn't drain anymore. So we have a little like AC drain pusher thing. It's called a swoosh. There's another name for it. Oh, it's a gallo gun. It's got a little CO2 cartridge in it and it just goes up. Psh. But that's really for like AC drains or little refrigeration drains. It's not for a whole drain line. So we even got the nitrogen out to blast it even harder. But because we're not plumbers, we don't really know our way around water lines and stuff like that. We don't want to blast it with too much pressure and like burst something down the line, because that's an even bigger problem. Like, anyway, so we told our customer there, we're like, I'm so sorry, but it seems like this is a plumber's problem and not a unit problem, which thank goodness for us. But this is another problem. And we think that the old unit got through with it because it was so inefficient. And now this new unit is like, I'm ready to rock and roll. And the drain is just not draining fast enough to make up for the condensate that the unit is producing. Anyway, that's a whole mouthful, but that sucked because she was not very happy to have to spend money on another trade. It's disheartening. We also responded to another service call with water pouring from the ceiling. You guys, that stupid rain. So we arrived there and literally they've got like all of their ceiling tiles removed and the rooftop unit is literally just pouring into a bucket in their office.
Wow.
That's serious. Oh my gosh, it's like cooled up in there, I think. Oh my gosh. So we go onto their roof. We find they've got an old carrier rooftop unit there. And we found the P-trap totally plugged up because the seagulls like to go up there and I guess drink out of the P-trap.
Blobbers, bloopers.
Holy shit.
Solid walk.
Holy moly. And whatever's in their mouths or beaks or whatever, it just like falls into the P-trap and creates a clog. We've seen it many, many times. And it's just really unfortunate because we do regular maintenance there and they're like maybe 3 weeks out of when we're supposed to do their service because we would have caught that debris when we clear the P-traps, when we do that on every service. So we would have caught it then, but I don't know, I guess the seagulls have been extra thirsty.
In the many years we've been servicing this unit, we've never ever seen it this clogged up.
We think the culprit lives right there. I just want you to know that I'm taking my life in my hands here, getting this close, oh my gosh, to a seagull nest. It's empty though, so And it wouldn't be a proper work week on the HVAC Diaries without a water source heat pump unit. And we just had one this week. 77 degrees. In fact, there's really nothing to report on it. We found the unit tripped at the circuit breaker. And we checked that thing over very thoroughly to find out what would have caused that. And there was nothing that we could see that caused a trip. Everything looked okay, it was running okay. We stayed there for just a little bit of extra time to make sure that it wouldn't trip while we were there. Nothing happened. So, unfortunately, nothing to report on that. Except two funny stories. The first one is that the circuit breaker for this one particular unit is located in the office that it's in, which is like, it's very strange for this building. Most of them go to a circuit breaker panel in a washroom, like what am I saying? Like a centralized circuit breaker panel into the washroom. But this one has its own individual panel inside the office. No way.
Okay.
Unreal.
And there's the circuit that's tripped.
Okay.
HP 12. Go on.
Yep. And we've had trouble finding that one before. I checked my notes to see when last we worked on this unit, and it was actually 5 years ago, and it was in 2019. And when we were called for that one, we found it tripped on HP for some reason, and nobody could find the circuit breaker for it. Nobody could find it. We were going crazy trying to search for the circuit breaker. Eventually, we all gave up. And this includes the maintenance guys who work, like, I'd say they live in the building. They work in the building like 24, like full time. And even they couldn't find it. So everyone gave up, and we called an electrician in to come and find the circuit breaker. And it's literally inside the office. It's just sitting behind a painting. So that electrician at that time wrote a note on the circuit box by the AC. And so it's like, panel in this room. Panel in this room. What does that mean? Panel in this room. What? So we start taking paintings off the wall, and sure enough, there's this tiny little breaker panel behind there. No way.
Okay.
Unreal.
And there's the circuit.
Anyway, and the second funny story is that, oh, man, I dropped my trouble light. I've got this little work light that just goes with me everywhere. And I knocked it with my elbow, and I couldn't reach it. It was a plastic golf club. So my dad throws it to me. I hook it in, pull over my little light. No. Oh no. I don't think I can reach that. Oh my god. What the fuck? Ha ha ha. Got it. Yes. And a massive story for me this week. Oh. I was featured in the HVAC Tactical magazine, which is just such a cool thing to even say that I was featured, but I was also on the cover. They put me on the cover of the HVAC Tactical magazine and wrote the most amazing article on me. I'm just so blown away by the honor and privilege that this opportunity is. And I'm just so thankful and grateful for people out there who have been a supporter of me from the very beginning. And Ben Poole at HVAC Tactical has definitely been one of those guys. I won the First Lady of the Trade Award back in 2020 from HVAC Tactical, and now being featured in their magazine is just the highest honor, and I'm just so grateful for it. All right, guys, I'll keep it there. That's all the adventures I have for you this week on the HVAC Diaries. HVAC vlog. Haven't said that in a while. Thank you so much for joining me on this crazy episode. Don't know how sane I'm gonna be by the end of summertime. We still have a few weeks left, and already it's just madness. As you've already seen, the last few vlogs have been crazy, but I love it. So I'll be here again. Thanks for coming. See you next time. Bye. I hate this box. That's better. Oh, crap. That's better. Okay, cool. Oh, let's start again. Crazy summertime. But I'll probably save the details of this project of ours for a separate video. On the standalone walk-in cooler, no, this swip, and then that guy's walking a cat. He's got a cat on a leash. That cat's gonna climb that tree. Oh my gosh. Go, kitty, go. I'm sorry, this is so interesting. Anyway, so here comes the cat. This week we also checked out another little food catering truck. Cool. This time is on the set of, or not the set of, it was just at the Vancouver Film Studios, which is a pretty big lot. That's beside the point. The truck is very small. Anyway, they've got a reach-in cooler. We had another service call to another. Why do I keep saying another? This week we had a service call to a catering truck with a reach-in cooler on the truck that everyone were at. This time, we just found this little unit tripped on the circuit breaker. However, this unit